Hey everyone. So this is a quick break from Corporate Transparency Act stuff, which we are still progressing on. And this is a little bit of a rant post, so forgive me in advance. But watch the video below. Watch it. These people are now demanding, due to the bird flu, that this disease is undetectable. Does that sound familiar to anybody else? The worst symptoms are the fact that they don't have any symptoms. And the bird flu is passed from animals. Your cows have the bird flu. Your chickens are going to have the bird flu. And the only answer is mandatory testing across the country on all the food. Which, by the way, we all know won't be testing anything in China or any of the other places that produce food, tampered food for the United States. But we need to do this for all livestock in America. Does that sound familiar to anybody else? I mean, seriously. That is the exact same load of garbage we were fed in COVID. So if you were ever under the illusion that COVID was over, that was just a dark day in American history, and you know what? Some of these people have said they've learned their lesson. Chris Cuomo's coming around. Maybe they all realized that they were advocating the destruction of our freedom for a disease that killed almost no one. No, they didn't learn their lesson. Some of them got caught with their foot in their mouth, and so they're doing damage control. But you know what COVID taught the oligarchy and the conspiring men of our day who seek to rule the world? It taught them something really simple. That it worked. It worked. New Zealand and Australia, before COVID, were ranked as two of the freest nations in the world. I actually considered at one point moving to New Zealand because of how economically free the country was. And overnight, they were able to sell a lie to the worldwide public that this pandemic was the most devastating thing to happen since the Great Plagues. And even though they lied about the data, they lied about who was dying from it, they did all of that, it didn't matter because the public bought it, and they allowed their government to turn into a dictatorship overnight. That's what happened. Australia had lockdown prisons where they trapped people who were infected. Do you guys not remember the videos? Now, the one silver lining of COVID was that Americans actually finally pushed back on something. And I'll admit, I was surprised about it. I was surprised because I've been spending, since 20 plus years, watching us roll over on our freedoms over fear of terrorism, over fear of this or that. And it always shocked me that people that called themselves, freedom-loving patriots were the first in line to shut things down. And you know what? We all have to learn our lessons, and we all have to have our own great awakening to realize that we've been sold a lie our entire lives. But the point was, is during COVID, we saw a bunch of Americans finally go, no, enough's enough. And most of these were led by the wives and mothers of our country who saw what was happening to their children as a result of these draconian and insane shutdowns, and they pushed back. And that's a subject for another time, but they pushed back. But what the oligarchy saw was that it was a resounding success. So, just like anything else, there's a new iteration. They're smart. They're not rich and powerful because they're stupid. They're very clever and very capable. And so round two's come around. Well, if they do the same attack they did before, it's gonna get stronger resistance in the U.S. than it ever did before. And they need to break us more than anybody else. You know why? Because despite all our flaws, Americans still possess the teeth to potentially fight back if they ever wanted to. And that scares the hell out of these people. And so they need to subjugate America. It's the last line of defense. So how are they going to do it this time? Well, there's an area that Americans have ceded basically most of their freedom and have started to try to take it back, but that area is food. You see, there were several scares created, largely in part due to industrialization abuses of food production, like unlivable conditions for livestock that allowed disease and illness to spread, and some people got sick. Those are legitimate things. But they weren't caused by somebody doing this. They weren't caused by somebody just raising animals. They were caused by people locking chickens into boxes that are 2 by 2 feet, if that. And so what they decided to do is create all these safety standards, and that's what spooked the American public, is a couple of outbreaks of foodborne illnesses. And rather than punish the people abusing the animals, instead, they decided to regulate everyone. And we won't go down the whole history of that, but it's definitely worth your time to look into it. But the point is that in the recent years, there's been a movement. It was started back in the, I'm going to be wrong, but it was started, I believe, back in the 60s with a bunch of hippies who were like, hey, all this relationship that we've developed with the production of our food isn't healthy. And while that movement started, on the other end, the process of destroying our food supply accelerated. We started adding seed oils, things that were used as lubricant into our food as a replacement for fats and for natural oils that are beneficial to the body. They started putting unnatural preservatives in everything, and then probably the worst thing of all is they allow these companies to mislabel everything. When you read something that says natural flavors, or you read something that says, oh, I'm getting windy, but if you read something that says vegetable or something like that, that's like kind of vague in general, but it's like, yeah, it says natural, it says it's vegetable oil. You're thinking that's oil squeezed out of some plant somewhere. No. They allow these people to lie their butts off. Just to give you an idea, none of the olive oil you're using is olive oil. It's like maybe 10% olive oil. Even the stuff that says 100% virgin, pure olive oil, it's a lie. I hate to break it to you, it's a lie. You can go do your homework. They're allowed to call it pure as long as it's like 10%. Isn't that insane? What do you think when you hear the word pure? You think it's just that, right? Nope, not true. This movement started, and there's been lawsuits. There's been a lot of it started on the left end of the political spectrum regarding the abuse of animals and food, and I don't want to go down this whole PETA route because I think those people are nuts. But the point is that then in the last decade or two, the movement was captured and transitioned over to the right and has begun the transition. There's still people on both sides. But that was started by health-conscious moms. Once again, we see moms at the forefront. American men, where the heck are we? Where the heck are we? We let our wives and our mothers lead the charge because what? But anyway, like I said, this is a rant. These moms noticed through their children, and if you're a parent, you've probably noticed, kids aren't the same as they were when I was growing up. There's a lot more psychological issues. It's total bullcrap to say that it's always been there. I knew kids growing up. I was an outdoor kid. I played with other kids all the time. I was a latchkey kid. I didn't come home until it was getting dark most days. I ran around with other kids. Kids did not have the emotional issues that they have now. Kids did not have the health issues that they have now. Anyway, these moms started noticing it, and they started getting involved, and they started going, there seems to be an interesting pairing between how much artificial, processed, like there's a whole laundry list of crap that they're doing to our food, and plastics, I mean, just the insane amounts of plastics and everything. And there seems to be a correlation between that and my own health and the health of my children. And so this movement got kicked into gear of these, what my wife calls crunchy moms. And it's these moms who are starting to homeschool their kids because they don't trust other people to teach their children what to believe. and what to know, and they've taken back that divine authority they have as mothers. They started paying attention to the food their children and their husbands themselves were consuming. They said, it's not enough to buy vegetables and replace crappy food with vegetables because the vegetables don't have any nutrients. Quick side note, an apple you buy at the grocery store today has 10%. Is it 10%? Yeah, it's like 15%, excuse me. 15% of the nutrient content that an apple your grandfather ate. How is that possible? Well, there's all sorts of research you can do on this about the change in our farming conditions and what we've done. And this isn't meant to be a tirade about all natural food. The point is, these mothers started doing this, and then a market started growing off of that of like, hey, I want my food raised naturally. I want my animals to be fed and treated well, which, believe it or not, any hunter can tell you that if an animal is highly stressed when it dies, it pollutes the taste of the meat. So when you go for a kill shot when you're hunting, you try to make it a quick kill, because if that animal's suffering for an hour, that ruins the meat. So, believe it or not, the quality of life that the animal had leading up to its butcher determines the taste of the meat and the quality and the nutrients your family gets. So these moms drove this movement, and since then there's been this series of all of these incredible independent agricultural producers rising back up, and there's been some that have been around for a generation, like Joel Salatin. But these people started building on this market, and this market started saying, hey, why are we pasteurizing milk when we can just treat the cows right and make sure there's clean conditions so that and chill the milk properly so that disease doesn't spread? That way we can get these enzymes that get destroyed in the pasteurization process that help our bodies digest the milk. And they noticed health benefits. Other women and other people have noticed health benefits of cutting seed oils out of their diet, which were originated to be like engine lubricants. The point is that then you could spend like my wife has more than a decade researching all this. But my point is to come back to everything here is that there's a movement to free food in this country and restore the health of American people. And control of food is critical to controlling the population. It's critical. So what they're doing is they're coming at the COVID approach, but they're coming after it at your food. They don't like these independent agricultural producers, so they want to put burdensome testing on them, burdensome vaccination and drug requirements that are too expensive for somebody to be doing this the natural way and can only be done in a big factory. Drive it either into a monopoly or drive it out of the country. That's their objective, because if they can control the food, they can control you. You will do anything to feed your family. I would do anything to feed my family. So this attack, they said, well, we can't get Americans to force inject themselves. Well, they've already shown that they can get this into plants and animals, and that by consuming it, your body will now start replicating the effects of these drugs. There's all sorts of studies on this. You can go find them. But the point is now they're going after it that way. They're going to put, this does two things. One, it basically is making you take the jab without you even knowing it, which is scary as hell because these people are playing God and they have no idea the consequences. Isn't that what we learn every generation? Is that the scientific new religion of the generation is disproven a generation later and find out that it has all these horrible consequences, like putting lead in everything or asbestos. Same thing with these pharmaceutical companies. These are the same companies that have done all sorts of corrupt things and never been held accountable for them. But the point is that they're going to do that. They're going to force you to take the jab through your food. And this is the way to do it, by scaring you about a bird flu, which is a bunch of malarkey. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it's malarkey that their drugs and that their stuff is going to stop illnesses from happening. The best thing we can do to fight most illnesses is be really healthy. That's the best thing we can do. That's why I'm on a walk right now. The second thing is that they want to consolidate food production into a few hands so that investors can control that. As you know, Bill Gates is the largest private farmland owner in the country. That seems strange, right? It's because food is control. And so the point here is that this is about control, and this is about keeping you unhealthy and keeping you in a position where they don't have to worry about the American public being too disruptive. And so what I challenge everybody to do who's listening to this is, first of all, stop buying the big food. I'm not perfect at this, but we need to start supporting local producers. We need to start supporting people who share our health values in the raising of our animals. What you eat is what you are. And we need to send a nice, big, freaking no to our politicians, to these health departments, to the pharmaceutical industries, saying that if you try to force this down our throats, then that's the end. We will not obey. We will not comply. This isn't to say that a producer can't use treatments on their animals or any of that silliness. Everybody's got to make their own call, and to pretend like I know everything would be ridiculous. But forcing people to do this, forcing this on us, doing it sneakily through our food, is a violation of our free will. And so what I would say to all Americans right now is, don't wait until the gun's to our head. Start telling them no now. Tell them that if you try this crap now, we'll revolt. If you're going to force me to eat drugs through my food, then I just won't do business with you anymore. Let's shut these companies down. Let me tell you, you go to Europe, the same companies that are selling things in the United States with 47 ingredients for pasta are selling them with 3 ingredients in Europe. You know why? Because despite all its flaws, the European people have largely said they don't like a lot of tampering with food. So please go support your local producers. Please support nonprofits like ours, the Homestead Liberation League, like the Red Acre Center, who's doing incredible work in the agricultural space here in Utah. Support trade organizations like RCAF that are fighting for the independent agricultural producer and the rancher. We have got to stand with these people, and the best we can stand with them is to buy things from them, support them, donate, and get your family healthy in the process. It's a win-win. Thanks again for your time.